What's up, guys? Derek, moreplates.moredates.com. Today I want to talk quickly about the highest dosage of anabolic steroids that's ever been well tolerated in a clinical setting. So, we talk about things on this channel relating to PEDs and whatnot, but obviously the data we like to see is at the clinical level as opposed to just anecdotally pulled off forums from bro logs, etc. I found this study really interesting because it looks at 1,200 milligrams of methanolone, which is also known as Primobolan. The study is called Effect of Methanolone Enanthate in Advanced Cancer of the Breast. So it compares 1,200 milligrams of Primobolan per week against 300 milligrams of test prop, and it's conducted in women, which is even more interesting. So if something's well tolerated in women, it's fair to say that it has a fairly significantly positive safety profile because we're talking about anabolic androgenic hormones here. So I just want to do a quick reading of the abstract. So methanolone enanthate, a synthetic long-acting anabolic steroid, was evaluated by a randomized study in the treatment of advanced carcinoma of the breast in post-menopausal women following the protocol established by the Cooperative Breast Cancer Group. Of 27 patients receiving Primobolan enanthate, 48% had objective improvement. There were no improvements in 13 patients receiving testosterone propionate. The median duration of therapy and the median period of survival from the onset of hormone therapy to death or present living time was greater for the responders to methanolone enanthate, also known as Primobolan, than the non-responders. The unusual high incidence of regression from methanolone enanthate therapy may be due to the massive dose employed, a defect in the method of study being employed in clinical trials, a difference that could occur by chance alone, or a significance in the biological nature of the disease in the two groups. Since the difference may indicate that methanolone enanthate is an effective hormone, further studies are warranted. So we're literally looking at the side effect profile of, the main bioidentical hormone in men and women for, like steroid. We're looking at testosterone versus Primobolan, which is, also it's a DHT derivative. So something that has, granted the androgenicity of Primo is not typical of something derived from DHT, but it's still derived from DHT nonetheless. And, this study just goes to show what kind of, like a lot of guys, they write off Primo as a weak anabolic. And this is something I used to do. To be honest, I never even used it because I just always wrote it off. And this was back when I used to blast and use super physiological dosages of gear. I would look at it as a subpar hormone. I'd be like, oh, you got to use the Tren, you got to use the Deca, you got to use the whatever. And Primo is one of the most science-backed, clinically safe. None of these, okay, to clarify, no anabolic steroid is safe, but in terms of human studies and safety data, probably one of the most well-tolerated anabolic steroids is Primobolan. And objectively looking at it, even in extreme applications, we have very, positive feedback on it in a clinical setting. And this is literally in women. So 1,200 milligrams per week. It wasn't even just for a short duration of time either. It was for 16 weeks. I'm going to put up the side effect profile. I believe I have a graph right here. Table 5, incidence of systemic reactions during androgen therapy of advanced cancer of breast. So well-being, 48% recorded increased well-being. Only 52% reported basically masculinizing side effects, which is really interesting. So literally only 50% from a dosage that would be considered high, even in a bodybuilder context for men. I'm not trying to advocate Primo by any means for performance enhancing purposes. I'm just saying, if you're going to go down that route, there's things that are efficacious and are well tolerated by the body that would be wise to choose before you use some hormone intended for a horse or for a cow, or for something that, even worse, something that's being intended to kill off just as a part of, some random research study that hasn't even been tested on humans yet. Now, that's not to say I'm not for exploration and, explorative research, but, just from a smart, logical health standpoint, you should choose hormones that are tried and true and have a lot of clinical back testing behind them and have good, safety profile in terms of what you can expect in your own outcome. Sort of like, I don't know, just an interesting study to go look at. Granted, it's from 1968, but still, the fact that even just looking at this data is interesting nonetheless. And, a lot of the principles still apply today. Like, it's not like this data has any less applicable meaning to bodybuilder context or a longevity context nowadays. And interestingly enough, it looks like Primobolan's actually being looked at in a clinical setting for other potential uses. So, for example, in anti-inflammatory application, it's actually Primobolan metabolites are actually being looked at right now for anti-inflammatory applications because they have a high level of selectivity and a lower toxicity than glucocorticoids. So Primobolan's a really interesting compound, highly faked, unfortunately. But, with that being said, good Primo. It's, I feel like it's a very underrated and efficacious hormone for the applications in which it is used or intended to be used. So, just interesting data to take a look at. I will link the study in the video description below for you to reference. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. Please like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplates.com. Talk to you guys soon.